Hello, friends. Today on the Real Estate Show from the Travel to Money podcast, we are chatting about whether or not to flip or rent out properties. My name is Nicole, and I'm joined by my co host, Jeremy. Hey, Jeremy, what kind of big real estate plans do you have going into the new year?
Oh man, trying to we're trying to hit about 100 properties purchased in 2024. That's kind of our goal. And so uh, we're very close in 2023. We were just short. So we want to hit it this year in 2024. And then we flip land all over the country. So we're trying to really grow that side of our business. So we're hoping to do, well, if I can be honest, I'd like to do 100 land deals, but if we hit 50 this year, that would be a huge win. So those are kind of the big things we have going.
So, we're going to talk today about flipping properties versus renting properties. You know, you hear some people on YouTube or different places saying this is the way to go or this is the way to go. And like you mentioned in the last episode, what you get into in real estate probably should have something to do with what you enjoy doing in real estate. But you've got quite a bit of experience in this area. So let's just talk first about flipping properties. What are some of the pros and cons of flipping properties specifically?
Yeah, so pros of flipping, you can make a lot of money fairly quickly. You don't necessarily have to spend a lot of money to lock up a property to buy it. There's wholesalers out there. So wholesalers are people who are out there talking with sellers, making offers on properties, putting them under contract, and then they're looking to generate a spread. And so those wholesalers are looking for the people who are actually going to go do the work and flip. And then you also have realtors who are also helping. They're going in, either they have listings or they see what's on the market and they can go and, help represent you. And, you put in your offers, find good deals. So it doesn't have to necessarily cost a lot of money. So one of the pros is, you can actually generate deals without putting a lot of money into lead generation. So that's one. If you buy a property right, I mean, you might make anywhere from $30 to $150,000 on a flip. So again, it really depends what you're into, what your experience is, but the better you get and the more you really know a specific area or a specific niche, even within flipping, you can really do well quickly. So
Mm-hmm.
I mean, those are the ones where, if you're looking to leave a W-2 pretty quickly, or hey, you just want to make an extra $100,000 a year, $100,000 is a whole nother job for a lot of people.
It's true.
And
Yeah,
so you can flip
that's
one or two houses, and if you do it right, I mean, you should be able to make, I mean, 40 to 60,000 per house. And so I'm not going to say
right.
it's easy and everybody can do it,
Mm-hmm.
but for me, seeing how this is done, doing it for so long, to me, that's one of the easier ways to get into real estate and be able to generate, pretty significant income pretty quickly.
So while we're on the pro section of that, do you have a specific example of your favorite flip that you've done or the best flip you've done that comes to mind?
My favorite flips are the ones that don't need any work. I just buy it and then turn around and say, hey, let's just list this on the MLS, because those
Mm-hmm.
actually are out there. But the ones we like the most are the ones that don't require a heavy lift. By a heavy lift, they don't require all the foundation work and framing and all of the big expenses. We don't want to go and rebuild a house. I like the
Mm-hmm.
ones where maybe they need new flooring, paint. I mean, essentially, if you spend your money well,
Mm-hmm.
and usually that means that you're gonna fix the kitchens and the bathrooms. If you do a really great job with
Mm.
that, you should be able to do well in a house. So I like the ones that are cosmetic, paint,
Yeah.
flooring,
Mm-hmm.
kitchens and bathrooms. Those are the primary focus. And sometimes we're putting 5 to 15,000 into a property, and like I said, 40, $80,000 in profit. Those are amazing. So it's not every single one, and I don't want to sound like it's easy. You have to find them, you have to negotiate them, but there's definitely opportunities to do that. I mean, if you're really focused on what you want, you're willing to wait and not force a bad deal, you could do really well.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I've been kind of thinking about experimenting in some of the camper world. This may sound funny, but I owned this little camper that I picked up on Facebook Marketplace really cheap, but it was so cute when I bought it. I knew as soon as I saw it that there would be a line of people for it. So I happened to be second in line. The first person backed out, get this little camper. Um, I ended up having a roof problem with it later that wasn't when I bought it. And had it not been for that, just because it was cute, like it, I sold it for almost twice as much as what I bought it for. And I was like, man, if I could find campers that have really good bones, and it's kind of the same thing when you're buying a house. Does it have really good bones? Do I not have to like do any, like you said, heavy lifting? Can I come in here and paint and spruce it up and just make it look modern and, double my money? I mean, that's small time when you're talking campers. You buy a $5,000 camper, maybe you sell it for like 12. So you're making a little profit. That's like a month's salary versus the kind of flips you're talking about, which could make up a year-long salary. But okay, so are there any times where you lose on a flip, or have you lost on a flip, or do you just wait it out?
Oh my gosh. So I have one flip that, okay, so I had a guy on my team who, he's also an agent. And I've always, up until this point, I always went and saw my flips before I closed on them. And so this was before I got into flipping in South Carolina. So I was still flipping in Tennessee. And, I built up a good rapport with this guy and, trusted him. And, he still works with me today. So everything's good and we worked through it. But he said, oh man, this property probably only needs like 1 or 2 hours worth of work. We can buy it, turn around, resell it. Here's where we're going to sell it for. We'll make a ton of money. Not a ton of money, but we'll do well. So I go and so we close on it, and then I go and see it like the next day. And I'm like, he didn't meet me there. He just said, hey, here's a lockbox code. So I go in and I'm there with my contractors and I'm like, this can't be the right property. I'm like, there's no way. So I hadn't seen pictures. I didn't see anything. I just bought it sight unseen based on what he told me. So I get there with my contractors. They're walking around. They're like, oh, this needs to be fixed. This needs to be fixed. Oh, wow. We got mold over here. Oh, we got to do this over here. So
no.
My contractors look at me and they said, hey, have you seen this house before you bought it? I said, no. I said, what do you think? They're like, well, how much work were you planning on putting into it? I said, about 1 or 2 hours. 1 or 2 hours? They're like, you're going to need about 2 weeks.
Oh,
and those are full days. So we ended up putting in more than that. So, anyways, that was the first time I bought sight unseen, and we ended up losing money on that property because we had to put, like, once you get into it, like, you got to put the money in to get it sold. So we tried to get it sold quickly without doing a lot of work. And it was a nice house, but it was big and there were some other things that needed to be done. It's like, you just needed to touch those things. And we tried to avoid that at first. And so we tried to do the bare minimum. It didn't sell for the price we thought it would and should sell for. So then we had to come back in and do some additional things after feedback from, some of the agents and the potential buyers. So, and then to add insult to injury, about 3 months later, I have someone show up at my house and serve my wife and say, hey, you're being sued. And I'm like, I'm in South Carolina at the time because now I'm in this new market trying to get things squared away. And my wife calls me. She's like, what do you know about this? Someone's suing you because of. So anyways, it was a total, it was a throwaway lawsuit. However, so basically we bought the property, but the person we bought it from apparently like 2 years before had some sort of special arrangement with somebody. It was very scammy. Anyways, long story short, they were trying to come after us because we actually bought it. And so they were trying to find the prior owner. And so I'm in touch with an attorney, and the attorney says, well, Jeremy, one thing you're probably going to need to start doing is every year budgeting for lawsuits. I'm like, are you kidding me? I'm like, we didn't do anything
Wow.
wrong. He's like, yeah, you didn't. And they're probably just looking for a payday and they're not going to get one from you. However, they're coming after you because you were party to this transaction and they're going after the seller. So, anyways, not only did I lose money on the flip, but that's the first and knock on wood only time that I've been sued. And my attorney said, well, you have to defend it. So that cost me about an extra $5,000 just to, go through the process. So,
Starting with cons of flipping, you could lose out if you kind of have to sell eventually and you're not going to wait around for years for a market to increase. What are some other cons of flipping?
yeah, so I would say, your taxes, right? If you
Mm-hmm.
make 40,000, 80,000, 100,000 on a flip, you're giving it away, right? Because you've got
Mm-hmm.
short-term capital gains tax. So that's definitely something to consider. The other thing too is like when you flip a house, if you get one of those easier ones or cosmetic ones that I was talking about, you might be able to do flooring, paint, the quick stuff, turn around and get your money back relatively quick.
Mm-hmm.
But I know some people that love the dogs. They love the dumpiest houses. And so they put a lot of money, a lot of time into these houses. And you have to budget that it's going to take 5 or 6 months, right? During
Right.
COVID, things were flying off the shelf, above asking price. Everyone was making a ton of money.
Mm-hmm.
But that market is come and gone. And so
Mm-hmm.
things have shifted a lot given interest rates and where things are at right now in today's market. So, number one, you may not have people clamoring for your house, paying over asking, and it may take a while. Your houses may sit longer than they did before. So you have to be willing and able to weather the storm. So it might take you 6 months to get your money out. So
Right.
what we call the cash conversion cycle, the ability to turn our cash into revenue, that might take longer. And then I would say the third con is once you flip a house, you now have to go and find another house to flip. So you're always, turn and burn properties.
Mm.
So those are probably the three things that I can think of.
Yeah, that makes sense. You touched on taxes, and I think we should probably dedicate an entire episode or maybe even two to just talking about taxes in real estate. I think that could be really helpful for a lot of folks. I'm sure I don't understand all of how it works and maybe some of the loopholes available doing different kind of real estate deals, but that would be fun to get into sometime. Okay, so we talked about flipping properties. Now let's talk about taking a property, buying it, renting it out. What do you think are some of the pros of going that route?
So again, it depends on what someone's personality is and kind of their appetite. Some people are looking to replace their income, right? So they're looking for $40,000, $50,000. So for those people, they may go after a flip. For someone that's looking to maybe supplement what they're currently doing, maybe they're at a W-2, or they have work that they already love and they're looking to maybe generate more cash flow, maybe get some of the tax benefits. Certainly rentals can play a role in that for sure. One of the things I love about rentals, a lot of people don't really realize this, but there's something that in the tax code you can actually take depreciation up front. And
Mm.
you can do what's called a cost segregation, and I can actually split out the value of the land versus the value of the building. And so, like
Wow.
last year, I was able to take 100% of my depreciation in year one. Now, there's a step down. Okay, I'm getting a little bit technical here, but there's a step down this year, and I can still take 80% of my total depreciation in year one. So, for example, why I really like rental properties is I can actually show a really strong profit for a year, but if I buy several rental properties, I can take that cost segregation and I can pull that depreciation out and go against my profits for the year. So for example, last year I think in depreciation we had like 400,000 plus that we could offset our income to lower our taxes. So a lot of people
Wow.
don't realize you can do this. It's very common
Yeah.
in commercial real estate, but you can also do
Hmm.
it for single family. And so I know some people that, they'll buy rental properties just for the tax benefits alone,
Wow.
because
Huh.
that can actually pull them into a lower tax bracket. So that's one reason I love the tax benefits. The other thing too is for rentals. The first time I bought a rental property in 2019, I didn't know what I was doing, but I knew from day one that I was going to hire a property manager and I was never going to manage a rental property.
Right.
So that was one of the best decisions I have ever made, because
Mm.
I probably would have hung it up, I'm sure. But
Yeah.
because I had someone that knew exactly what they were doing, once I bought the first rental property, I was like, I can do this. I can repeat that process. And so I did, and I was able to pick up 50 rental properties. Let's call them doors, right? Because I started to buy like an 8 unit, I bought a 19 unit, but I bought 50 doors in 11 months,
Whoa.
going from not knowing
That's
anything.
crazy.
Yeah. And so my property manager's like, all right, I'm with you. Like, whatever we need to do. So he would go with me, look at the property, and he's like, yeah, that's a good deal. Go ahead and make your offer. He's like, what are you getting it for? I bought an 8 unit, my first multifamily. I bought 8 units for
You
$175,000.
did not.
I
Are
did.
you
I did.
serious?
I did.
What?
Actually,
And
if I'm
that,
honest, I bought it for 155, and then the guy that found it for me, so this was a wholesaler, he got a
okay.
$20,000 fee. I didn't care. I'm like, I probably would
Okay.
have paid up to
Yeah.
220 for it.
Right. Oh my
So,
gosh. What kind of, so on like 8 units, what are you renting them out for? Just to get an idea.
so it's crazy. So in this particular area, the guy that owned this property was renting them like they were, I don't want to say efficiencies, but they
Hmm.
were, what do you call that? Where it's like a studio.
Like a studio. Yeah.
7 studios and one bedroom. But he was renting them out for 375.
What?
It was
I
crazy.
need to get
So
on that.
so my property manager's like, Jeremy, these should be renting for over $600. He's like, this is
Yeah.
this is unbelievable. He's like, this doesn't make any sense. And so the guy that owned it was living in Arizona, and
Hmm.
he didn't even really care. Like the property management company, he was just like, oh, just don't want any turnover. I don't want any, any high expenses. So he was
Right.
having a health issue, and he's just like, I want nothing to do with this. I've got to take care of my heart, and I just need to have surgery. And he's like, I just want this thing sold fast. So this is what's crazy is I'm sitting at my daughter's soccer game, and I'm watching at warm-ups, and somebody puts in one of the Facebook groups, one of the real estate Facebook groups, puts this out there and says, hey, I've got 8 units in Clarksville, Tennessee. And he said, hey, I'm looking to assign it, and here's where I'm at. And so what I did is I saw like 20 comments. So I said, yeah, I'm definitely interested. And then I private messaged him and I said, hey, Jason, I'm really interested in this property. I can make a decision really quickly. If you can get me access, I'll let you know same day. So he said, hey, Jeremy, I really appreciate you reaching out and, showing me that, you're willing and able to do this. Let me see if I can get you access. So he did. A couple days later, I took my property manager. We saw it and we're like, this is a no-brainer. And so he gave me a shot and we bought it and it worked out. Well, here's the kicker. Number one, it didn't cost me anything to generate this lead. I literally was just like, scrolling before my daughter's soccer game. And then after this happened, this investor, Jason, he said, Jeremy, like what's your buy box? What does that look like? And he was newer at this. So I said, hey, here's where I need to buy it. If you find anything else, I'd love to have first crack. You already know that I can close. Give me a shot. So literally a month later, he comes back with a 19-unit apartment building in Clarksville, very close. And he was asking, oh gosh, what did I pay for this? He was asking $650,000.
Okay.
And so, and then he wanted a $50,000 assignment fee. I said, yeah, that's fine. No problem. This thing was worth probably as is. No, in fact, no, I know for a fact we had an appraisal done, an as is appraisal, and they came back at like 920,000. We bought it for
Oh my
650.
gosh. So you got that much equity just right off the bat.
That much equity.
Like
But here's the thing.
300,000.
Yeah. So, but this is what's crazy is the guy that owned it. He was actually the original builder of the property, and he had hundreds of units in Clarksville. So he was just looking to offload some of them, and he didn't do a good job of managing the property as far as
Mhm.
rents go and whatnot. So these properties were renting between $480 and $500, and they were all 2 bed, 1 bath. They should
Whoa.
have they should have been renting between 7 and 750 in current
Okay.
condition.
Wow.
And so we came in, our property manager, same situation. Jason's like, Jeremy, I'll get you a time. So I go. He wasn't even there to meet me. He just at that point had trusted me, and he said, "Hey, you can talk to the owner. It's fine." So we asked a few questions, looked at a couple of units, and I was like, "This is a no-brainer." My property manager's like, "These things are way under market." So
Mm.
it took time to be able to get rents to where they needed to be. Obviously, we had to honor current contracts and all that, but I mean, it was a great property for us, and we were able to get equity from day one. We were able to I actually so this was crazy. I borrowed 100% financing, so I didn't even use any of my own money on this deal. That's the
That's
best
insane.
part. So like there's so many ways to structure deals. There's so much money out there. There's people that want to partner with you. There's people that some of them don't want to partner. They just want to loan you the money. So I just love the creativity because I mean, essentially what I like to do is solve real estate problems. And believe it or not, there's a lot of
Yeah.
them out there. So
Yeah. Yeah. I think I can't wait to get into future episodes where we talk about some different creative things you can do in real estate because there is just so much opportunity and it can look really different. And like you said, I've noticed this in Spain too as I've bought houses. Sometimes people are just in a point in their life where they just want to get something off their hands. I've heard of all kinds of different stories because every single piece of real estate is different and has something unique about it and has a different story with the owner. And so there just really is all sorts of really cool opportunities out there. You mentioned something called buy box. What does that mean?
so my buy box would be like specifically what my parameters are. So it could
Okay.
be a certain zip code or a certain area or a certain city that certainly could be part of it. But basically like the amount or the like what my
Like how much
return
you're
would have
wanting
to
to
be.
spend and what you, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so
All of
so
the
like
different parameters.
yeah, so for me, so there's people have there's all these rules in real estate that are kind of like rules of thumb. Like people say, oh, if I can make 1% return. So what that essentially means is if they can rent it out for 1% of the total cost, all in
Mm,
cost, then they're interested. Well, for
okay.
me, like I'm interested at like 1.5%. So if you did the math on something like that, I'm gonna pay for my rentals. I'm gonna pay anywhere from like $30,000 to $40,000 less than someone else that's willing to pay the 1% rule.
Mm,
So,
that makes sense. Yeah.
for me, I wouldn't touch 1% with a 10-foot pole because, in my opinion, I'm speculating. Right? I don't ever buy
Yeah.
rental properties for appreciation. That's a speculation. That's hoping that the value of the home is going to go up. And so when I'm
Mm,
buying a rental property, I'm looking for cash flow. I'm looking for equity. Hopefully, I'm getting both of those. And so if I have my percent at 1.5, I can guarantee that I'm going to get both equity and cash flow. So that I'm positive I'm in the black from day one. So that's what I'm looking
right.
for. I'm looking
That
for the
makes
tax
sense.
benefits, right? The depreciation. I'm looking for amortization, which means that I've got a tenant in there who's paying down my mortgage. So there's all these different benefits. I'm looking for all of those. For me,
Okay.
appreciation is the icing on the cake. If I get it,
Hmm.
great. But if my properties never appreciate, right? Assuming worst case scenario, they never appreciate, I'm still
Mm.
winning in my deal. And so they are appreciating, so I'm getting that, but I'm not banking on it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally. So, any quick cons to buying and renting properties?
Yeah, so sometimes people think that if they buy rental properties, they can make a lot of money really quick. And yes, it's
Mm.
possible to do that. But typically, like a lot of times, people I see when, especially when they first get started, they'll buy a rental property and they might only make $100 a month after all of the mortgage, the taxes, insurance, repairs, all of that. So, I mean, just imagine if you're only making $100 a month or $200, that's not going to make you rich.
Yeah.
That's not even going to help you to step away from your W 2 if that's what your goal is. And so you really have to know number one, you need to know your numbers and you need to know exactly why you're doing it. I have some friends that their goal is, hey, I want 20 rental properties. I want to keep working my job, but I want to accumulate these over the course of, let's say, I don't know, 10 years or whatever. And they want
Mhm.
that to be their retirement. As long as you know why you're doing it,
Mhm.
um, then you're good. But if you're playing the long game, rentals can be really great because you get all the different benefits that we mentioned.
Right.
However, if you want to move fast and you want to replace your income really quick, number one, you better have the ability to buy these properties and get the equity and the cash flow quick and buy a lot of
Mhm.
them. Or you probably need to consider another niche because it's harder to do it with single family. So if you want to do
Right.
multifamily and you're able to buy, let's say a duplex or an eightplex, and then you buy another eightplex, I mean, you can move pretty quickly there and generate a lot of
Mhm.
income. But you really have to go for for multi-unit in order to do that.
With what you've done in real estate so far, are you just mainly doing flips? Do you have a lot of rentals, or what's the current state of your business?
Yeah, I think we've got like 70 rental properties or so, 70 or
Cool.
80. I don't keep track that often. Usually it's quarterly. We look and see where we're at. But like I've sold a lot of properties. I had a 30 unit apartment building. I've sold the 19 unit, the 8 unit. So I looking back, I wish I would have kept all of them, right? That's one of my
Mhm.
lessons where shoot, I wish I would have held them.
Mhm.
But some of those things were stepping stones to get where I'm at today. And
Sure.
so it is what it is. But yeah, I think right now I'm doing a mix of wholesaling properties, we're flipping properties, and we're buying rentals. So interestingly enough, I'm in like two markets, and one market is great for flipping, and then the other market is great for buying rentals. And so
Oh,
my strategy is different in different markets because that's just what it calls for. So one example would be I'm buying anywhere from 20 to maybe 70,000 in this particular market,
okay.
and then I'm able to rent out for like 11 to 1500. So my
Wow,
cash flow is really really strong,
that's incredible.
and yeah, so that's really good. And then in my other market, if I'm going to buy rentals, it's hard to find anything that's better than like 1%. Sometimes we might find a 1.3%, but it's like so I'm not really looking to accumulate rentals in that particular market unless I'm buying creatively with some creative financing, which is probably best saved for another conversation. But yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, it's crazy because you've got all these tools in your toolkit, right? So
Yeah.
as you get into real estate, and I know you do some short term stuff. I mean, short term is a whole nother beast, right? Because there's different benefits to that. You can cash flow
Mhm.
really quickly. You can do a lot of cash flow really quickly. So if
Mhm.
you added that, flipping long-term rentals and short-term rentals, well, now this discussion changes dramatically because you could actually do. I know people that have generated tens of thousands of dollars within their first 12 to 18 months doing all short-term. So that's a whole
Yeah.
nother part of this conversation that again we could save that for another day. But
Yeah. We'll definitely have to talk about that at some point. I think I did. I had my house, it was the 3 bedroom house that I turned into a full Airbnb rental while I traveled. This was in like the heyday of Airbnb, but I think I pulled in 30 grand that year, roughly, which is not bad. Maybe more. It might have been like 36, but it wasn't bad for especially for what I was paying on the house and stuff. So it was a little
yeah,
shocking to have like that much extra income coming in for the first time in my life without having to do a whole lot extra for
Yeah.
it. So that was a lot of fun. Anyway, we'll talk more about that another time. Real quick, what do you think about current market conditions for flips and rentals? Sounds like there's both, just depending on where you are from what you said.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting, right? Because inventory is really low. So you would think, well, people are, still looking to buy because there's not a lot of inventory out there. But um, we've seen that our flips have been sitting on the market for a long time. I mean, in fact, we've got one house that literally we bought it and it was never lived in. It was somebody's second home. And we didn't have to do any work. We literally put it on the MLS. And we're $40,000 less than every house in the neighborhood. And it's still a good deal. We've had zero showings. Zero.
Wow.
So and I think right now we've got about 6 properties that are listed. We've had a
Mhm.
couple of offers, but man, buyers are, in the driver's seat right now. At
Right.
least in some markets because they're able to get rate buy downs. They're able to get closing costs covered. So it really just depends where you're at. But we've seen that lull in the market. Plus, it's the holiday season, so things have slowed down a little bit. So it'll be interesting to see what happens next year, being that 2024 is an election year.
Hmm.
But yeah, I mean, with interest rates as high as they are, it's hard for rentals, at least long-term rentals, to really cash flow and to make,
Right.
good money. So, there's it's challenging for different reasons for both of for both flipping and renting. So what I would say is going back to buying right. If you buy right,
Mm.
you can move your flips, but you
Right.
need to be conservative and need to make sure that you're not overpaying for properties. If you do that and then you flip well and you cover your bases and your kitchens and your bathrooms and you're making the house look really nice where people don't have to come in and do any extra work, those houses are
Mm.
still moving pretty quick in our opinion from what we've seen.
Okay.
But that's kind of my take. But both are good. There's still opportunity for both, but I know in some markets people are not buying rentals because, like I said, the price, the cost to get started, you're not able to get enough rent to
Mm.
justify what you're paying. But then in other cash
Right.
flowing markets where you can get in for 20, 30, $50,000, those ones still are doing really well. So we're still doing both. We're flipping and buying rentals, but we're very selective in how
Mm.
we're doing it.
Well, this has been super insightful and fun. Next week, we'll be getting into talking about the different types of real estate investing. So, for all of you out there watching or listening, thank you for being here. I'd love for you to subscribe and let us know if there are any real estate questions we can answer for you. I can't wait to see where your dreams will take you.